any of those numbers surprise you, or do you have an answer to counter that or Americans just not clued into what they should be thinking, Josh?
Yeah, I would say I don't think they're really I don't think they're really well-designed poll questions. I think, as a lot of you just noted, 62% is a pretty high number for people who think either wealth distribution is a problem to be addressed by government or raising taxes on the wealthy. I mean, my view, and I think a lot of people share it, is that we cannot have an economy that actually delivers broadly shared prosperity for everyone until we actually check the power of the ultra-rich and corporations. I think lots of Americans believe that. Whether or not those particular poll questions really get at that doesn't surprise me that they don't. I think when you ask people what they're really concerned about, they list a bunch of things about the economy in general. I would argue a lot of those things, whether it's addressing the cost of health care or higher education or job creation, those are all profoundly affected by inequality. Whether or not ordinary Americans link that, I don't know.
So just looking at the history of the United States and going back more than 5 years, you say until we get to where prosperity is shared broadly. You don't think the United States has a record of sharing prosperity pretty broadly over the last 200 or 300 years? Compared to the rest of the world? I mean, you know what goes on in the rest of the world. I mean, not necessarily the developed countries in Europe, et cetera, but in general, you don't think that the American promise has been something pretty special, Josh? No?
I would say it depends what time span. I would say over the past, say, 30 to 40 years, that promise has mostly fallen short. You've seen the vast majority of households that see income growth far below the average growth, not just the top 1%, just below average. How can most people grow below average? It's because the average is pulled up by skyrocketing incomes at the top.
We've exported a lot of prosperity, too, obviously. We've got 600 million Chinese into them. Dan, you've been very quiet. You've been serene almost, I guess. What would you say?
I think the fundamental difference that we probably have is I think policymakers should focus on mobility and opportunity and growth. I think a fixation on inequality and a fixation on wealth redistribution is a problem economically, but I also think, talking to some of my Democratic friends on Capitol Hill, it's a problem politically. If Bernie Sanders and Kamala Harris and all the rest are competing on who can raise taxes the most and who can be most spiteful toward higher income taxpayers, I don't think that sends a good message to an American people that still believe in upward mobility and striving and the American dream.
I mean, Josh, I always have a problem. Do you want a system that continues to lead the world in creating millionaires, or would you rather have a system that caps people at a number below that because it's some type of zero-sum game in your view? Or do you want people to become millionaires in the United States?
I think the number of millionaires is a statistics I'm not super interested in. I would say we have had a very zero.
I'm not asking you whether you're interested in it. I'm just asking you whether you think it's a good thing that.
No, you asked which I wanted. Do I want more millionaires? Right. I don't really care. What I want is most households in the United States to be getting richer steadily over time. I mean, in the long, long, long run, that leads to a lot of millionaires. But most Americans are nowhere close to being a millionaire and are not on an income trajectory that's going to lead them.
And hopeful and aspirational, right, Dan?
That's right. And policy should actually help them rather than hamstring them the way it has for the past 30 years.
Dan?
If I can jump in, I think we can probably agree on let's get rid of some of the cronyism in the economy that helps the politically well-connected. I think back last decade to TARP as a horrible example of government power being used to help rich people. I want a genuine competitive marketplace with nobody getting any special benefits from government. And I view government as something that does get captured by the rich. And so I would think that honest people on the left and the right can come together, shrink government, create more of that rising tide that JFK talked about that can lift all boats.
So let me ask you both a question. What the poll doesn't measure is the sense that people have that inequality of opportunity has gone up, that people don't have the same opportunities as they had before. How important do you think this issue is looking forward?
Well, I'll jump in on that. There are some things in life that are unfair. The academic research says if you're taller, you will earn more income over your life. If you're good looking, you earn more income over your life. If you have better parents, you earn more income over your life. Those are things that government can't fix or can't change. But what government can do, why don't we break up the failed government education monopoly, have school choice, especially for people in poor areas, so that they can break out? But Bernie Sanders just the other day said not only no school choice, but no charter schools, because he's putting union bosses at the National Education Association ahead of kids. So there are lots of things that, in theory, we should be able to all agree on.